Okay, thank you everyone for coming out tonight. And this is a subject which is of great interest to many people, or should be of interest to many people, and it's file management for photographers. I want to set some expectations for this evening, and first of all, we will not be able to answer all your questions. The subject is so broad, everyone has different goals. There's so many different tools available, it's not one solution for everybody. We will probably not have the ideal solution for you because you may not know what you need and want, and your needs can change. So this is kind of an ongoing thing, but we do need to do something to protect our digital assets so that our pictures don't get lost and we're able to access them. So we will introduce the subject and the importance of it and give guidelines to help you discover your needs and the tools that are available. So the overall subject is called digital asset management, and that consists of management tasks and decisions surrounding the ingestion, annotation, cataloging, storage, retrieval, and distribution of digital assets. And digital assets can include photographs, they can include videos, they include PDF files, and any type of file that you can create on your computer falls into this whole category of digital asset management. And this subject also includes the computer software and hardware systems that aid in the process of the digital asset management. And it also refers to the protocol for downloading, renaming, backing up, rating, grouping, archiving, optimizing, maintaining, thinning, and exporting files. So your goals as photographers might include ensuring that your files are not lost or misplaced. And one thing to note that is many of us store our images on hard drives, and all hard drives will fail. It's just a matter of time. So you need to be aware of that. We have a server here where we share files with among different people working, and that hard drive lasts about 2 years with all the usage before it fails. So you need to know that your assets are vulnerable and that you need to come up with some sort of a plan if they're important to you, for the longevity through the years. Another goal may be to create an efficient workflow. You're taking your pictures off your camera, and then what do you do with them? Where do you put them, and how do you store them, and how do you catalog them? So we'll be going over that. And then cataloging and indexing your files so you can see what you have. And then find and select images in your collection, and then be able to retrieve them for your own use or to deliver them to a client or wherever it may need to go. All right, so there are certain things that we need to keep in mind, and that includes developing a system is an ongoing process. Like I said at the beginning, you're not going to have your be-all end-all system right away. Your needs are going to change, and the tools available are going to change. So we shouldn't have the idea that we're just going to have the perfect system right from the get-go. It's an ongoing process. And we'll start with the prime directive, which is don't lose the photos. And we'll proceed from there. And the important thing is just get started. It may not be perfect, but you need to get started because you don't want to lose your photos. There was a woman here, we had a photography class last night, and she lost her hard drive, and her hard drive is now in Miami going through some type of forensic recovery system, which is expensive, thousands of dollars. And she just didn't think to back her stuff up or have some system to prevent loss. So for file management for photographers, we're going to be talking about using an organized filing system. And then once you have your system, you're going to have to import your images and manage them in some way. And then we're going to talk about data backup and storage. So using organized filing system. Now this is a friend of mine. She's a graphic designer, and this is what her desktop looked like. And she's got image files, she's got PDFs, she's got all kinds of, I don't even know what half the stuff is. And she doesn't either, and if you need to find something, good luck. And we do have people come in with their laptops to print with us, and they'll come in and this is what their desktops look like. And it's kind of frightening, and they don't sleep well at night. So feeling frazzled? Well, we have some ideas and some solutions here tonight. So an organized filing system. Well, your filing system is going to be used for the life of your file, so you need to give some thought to it. Again, you don't want to get overwhelmed and be stopped from putting it together, but you do need to spend some time thinking about and writing down what your goals are. What are you trying to accomplish with this? And it'll depend upon how you shoot, what you shoot, and what you're going to do with your images. Are they just for your own self-enjoyment, or are you going to be, have a stock library and license images out? Are you going to be printing them to sell in galleries or on your own at art festivals? So you have to kind of assess what you're going to be doing and then try to come up with a strategy that fits that. So one approach is to actually just have something very simple and use your operating system, or going to a management software. Now, one of the systems we have here is kind of a combination where we use the operating system to put our files into folders, and they're identified by using the date and the name of the client and the name of the job. And the more you can put into the folders and the file names for descriptors, the better it'll be for you when you need to find something later on. We'll have clients come and say, well, I want another print of that red one we did 3 years ago, and that really doesn't help much. But if you have the date and the client name, and you have, the name of the picture, I ask people, give me a title for this so that we can track it. And then we have a customer management system, which is custom software, which we program to manage our business. And that's where we assign the numbers for each job, and we have a description of what the job is, and we can track all these jobs. And between just simply storing them on the computer using the operating system and using our customer relational management system, we're able to track everything and manage it that way. Were you going to say something?
We have things we do every month, so we break it all up by month. So there's February 2014, March 2014, April 2014, and in each month we have, for our system, prep for print, art needed, ready to print, done printing. When we deal with things like artwork or photography, it might be need to be edited, Clearwater Centennial, Visual Success Workshop. So inside each month we have the same kinds of folders over and over again for our redundant things that we do. And then inside each redundant thing, so that not only is it being backed up as it goes through the process, and then once it's finished, then it gets backed up, which he'll get into in a second. So we have about 4 different ways that we could cross-reference it, the last of which being through the accounting system. So that if we have a job that was done in March, it would be 03-14 for March 14, and then the name of the client, and then a 4-digit numeral that sequences up continuously. So that's a very specific way that we do it, because our business is task-oriented. Everybody needs to make it adjust. I just saw some people just kind of like go.
Oh, okay.
So I just wanted
Thank
to
you.
inject some specifics.
Should we put
Thank
month
you.
first?
We do month first. Yeah.
So it'll be
Real pain for sorting.
0614.
Because I put your first.
That's probably,
Then, yeah, 14, 03.
yeah.
So we'll have a number like this, which is the date, and then a sequenced number, and then we might have the name of the person, Jones, and then we might say, I don't know, photos, or maybe even more, and say kids. So we have a chance of finding it in multiple ways.
We're going to file or further.
This is a folder.
But I had a client that came in from 2011 today, and we were making, believe it or not, we're bringing the next generation into that photo. So we've got 5 generations now, and I had less than 10 minutes to find that file from 2011. I was so excited, I did.
So the point of this example is that we customize our own filing system for our particular needs, and you'll have different needs. So we're not often going through on a daily basis looking through all the images and files we've created. Most of it gets archived fairly right away once we're done printing it, but we may need to find it months or years later. So we came up with this system using the operating system and using our customer relational management system to bring this all together for us. All right, on a Macintosh, in the operating system, you can actually click on a file and get info and put in keywords. And then when you do a search through the search menu bar, Spotlight, it'll find those keywords in those files. So if you don't want to get into investing in some software, you can do it. All right, and there's iPhoto, Adobe Bridge, Adobe Lightroom, Aperture, Photo Director, AC/DC, and others. Some reviews were done this past year, and these were considered the top software package available for image management. And we have Photo Director 5, Adobe Lightroom, Apple Aperture, AC/DC, and Serif Photo Plus. These are the different things that they looked at each of these packages to rate them. In terms of file management, your ability to rate the photos, whether you give them stars or give them numbers. Search by file name, create albums, organized by date, organized by keyword, raw file compatibility, to be able to view metadata, backup files, sort thumbnails, flag photos, add color labels, organized by category, stack, and even find faces. And then they evaluated the software packages by the ability to share in terms of using slideshows, creating slideshows, Facebook, uploading a Flickr, email, burning to CD or DVD, online gallery, SmugMug, and specialty products. And then they rated them based upon the help and support. They have a manual, user forums, can you call in, tutorials, etc. So Adobe Bridge is very useful as a file management system, and if you have Photoshop and some of the other Adobe products, it usually oftentimes comes with it, comes in the Adobe Creative Suite, and that's how I got it. And it is a file management system, and I have it here as an example because this is kind of like the backbone of many of the other systems. So here we have, looking along the top here, you can see the pathway to a folder on my desktop. And this is a series of photos I just used for this example. And what you can do is you can have them there and then assign keywords, and you can assign multiple keywords. And they have some here to start with, and by hitting a plus sign you can add your own keywords. So I added animals, and then I said, okay, the keyword for this frog should be animals. But it could be other things too. It could be even the color green. If you had a situation where you're working with selling photos to decorate rooms and you want to find all your green photos, you could use that as a keyword too. So, and that brings up the point again, is you kind of have to look ahead and anticipate what you're trying to do. How are the keywords going to serve you the best? This is still in the Essentials window here, but I showed this because you can pick several pictures and then show them side by side, which is real nice when you're comparing them or trying to group them in different groupings. And here you have either your metadata or your keywords. And then they have another format with a film strip, which is just another way of viewing things, and you've got your metadata and keywords over there. And yeah.
What's the difference between the Bridge and Lightroom? Or do you use both, one or the other, or both?
You'd probably use one or the other. Lightroom has photo editing capability where Adobe Bridge does not. Adobe Bridge was developed so that you could catalog and pass files between the different programs you're using, like you're using InDesign for graphic design work, you're developing websites, and how do you manage all your assets and keep track of them. And so they developed that. It comes with the suite so that you can manage your assets. Whereas
Photoshop, if you had just Photoshop, would you still use Bridge?
yeah, Photoshop doesn't do any of this file management. You couldn't, keyword and compare images and do all the things that you can do here. And the next module is Output, where you can make contact sheets, or make files to print, like photo packages and things like that. So Yeah, it's a very different thing than Photoshop. Photoshop is a photo editing program. This is a photo management program. And Lightroom kind of combines them both. It's not as powerful as Photoshop and all that you can do with the layers and the editing, but it's a great workflow tool where you can do adjustments. And you've shot a wedding and you got 500 pictures where you can adjust them all real quickly and do some cloning and fixing up, and then you can categorize them and sort them and, you know, pick out your favorites ones, and then you can print contact sheets or make a website out of it. So Adobe Bridge is kind of the bare bones management program without the photo editing or the other things. So if you're on a budget and you already have Adobe Bridge because you have some of the other Adobe products, it's a reasonable way to go.
I was surprised to learn today. I was like doing some research before I came tonight, and I'm brand new at Photoshop, but I clicked on Bridge and all my operating system files were there. So I could pull up any of the, I thought, oh, I'd have to load everything into it, but it's all there.
Right.
So I was amazed.
Well, it is one solution, and this is the output module where you can say, okay, I want 4 columns and 5 rows of pictures to make a contact sheet, you know, or I could have like a print package that I would make up, and then you can output it. Now, Lightroom is a little more sophisticated, and I was mentioning you can do a lot of photo editing in it. Not the robust editing that you do in Photoshop, but you can adjust all your images, you know, adjust the exposure and adjust your black and white values and all kinds of things, which are very useful when you need to plow through a lot of images quickly. You can change the color cast or all kinds of things, and we'll see some of those as we go through here. This is the import module, and you know, some people import from their camera, some people take the card out and put it in a card reader, import from there. Some people pull it to their desktop and then import it from there. So there are a couple of different ways that you can go about it. I like dragging all my images from the card onto my desktop and then bringing Adobe Lightroom.
Well, how do you do that? That's where I get confused. Like I put my card in my computer,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes immediately to Lightroom, and there they are. But I don't know if it's in my desktop also.
Well, what I do is I hide the Lightroom screen and then I drag it to my desktop. You know, like the card appears as a little icon like a hard drive. Then I open it up and mine says EOS for Canon, and I bring it over there, and then I rename the folder, and then I drag that onto the Lightroom icon, and it opens it up. So when I first started using it, I would you know, bring them in from the card through Lightroom, but then you've got to tell it what folder to put it into. And if you're not careful, you're not familiar with it, then it goes automatically by default into the pictures folder, which is not the way I like to work. So inadvertently it would go into my pictures folder and I couldn't find it. All right, so this is the import module, and you can decide whether you want to import all of them or just some of them. There are check boxes here indicating that we're going to import everything into the catalog. And then from there, you go into the library module, and you can look at all of them like this, or you can look at them individually, you know, full size. And here is a good place where you can add keywords, and you can you know, star them. And there's a star system, you know, 1 through 5 stars, you know, in terms of how. This is in the library mode. Yep, library. Well, this is the first one that comes up for importing, and then if you want to import more photos, you know, once you're in library mode, you want to go and do another import, then you go over to the left-hand side. Yeah, it just ignores them. This is bringing it into the Adobe Lightroom catalog. They'll still reside on your hard drive, but these are the ones that you're bringing in your catalog to manage and to view. Yeah, most people figure that's best not to erase your card at this point, just in case you ran into a problem. You'd still have your card as a backup until next time you erase it. So this is import, and then we go into library. We were just talking about that. And again, here you can add keywords or rate them by stars or flags or numbers. It has all 3 ways of doing it here. And then you can go into the develop mode, and here you have all the adjustments, and you can do the color, temperature, and the exposure, and all these other settings, brightness, contrast, luminescence, etc., etc., etc. And you can do some basic cloning to you know, get rid of spots and things like that. You can get rid of red eye, you can get rid of, do some skin smoothing, some basic things that are a lot quicker here than you would do in Photoshop. So it's a great workflow tool when you're editing lots of photos. And then here's an example of a nice feature is you can show side by side the before and the after. I've had that experience where you're editing and editing and editing and editing, and you don't realize that you've strayed really, really far away from where you started, much too far. So it's nice to have a side-by-side comparison to see where you started and where you ended up. And then you can select different images, all of them or some of them, and export them. And this is really powerful because you can export them as TIFF images, JPEGs, digital negative format, and you can tell what size to make it. You can say, make the long size 1,000 pixels if you were doing like a website. Or if you're, have a publishing project, you can say, make them all 8 inches on the long side at 300 dpi. So you can do that all in one fell swoop to, one image or 100 or 1,000 images all at the same time, and put them newly in a new folder as a new version in that size and format. Slideshow feature, which is real powerful too. Sometimes we'll have an event here and I'll do a bunch of shooting, and then I'll set up on a slideshow, and while people are still here they can see the event they were just participating in, run on my large monitor. And then it has a print module too, which is real powerful, and you can print contact sheets, and it has pre-installed layouts, so you can do 5x7s and 8x10s and print packages, and you can customize your own print packages. So once again, you don't want to make it so complicated that you never do it, but it should involve a little bit of thought and research on what will work for you, and what worked for somebody else may not work for you. But you might want to chat with other people. How are you doing it, and what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And there are sorting tips and tricks which aren't really that significant. Some people put spaces before file names, and that forces them to come up to the top alphabetically. What's also good is some people rename their files, and it'll be incremented 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it's better to have leading zeros, because you'll find that number 11 will come after number 1 when it's sorted alphabetically. You don't realize that at first, but it's good to have these leading zeros so that it does truly increment when it's in alphabetical order. So we talked about JPEGs as being lossy, and they experience generational and parameter losses, meaning that if you save it over and over again, each generation is going to lose a little bit more. And when you do things like rotate it and crop it and things like that, that also contributes to losses. So that doesn't mean you should avoid them, it's just that you need to be aware that there's that lossy component, that you shouldn't save it over and over again and expect to have the same quality as you started with. And it stands for Tagged Image File Format. And it's a good choice for archiving images when all the detail must be preserved and the file size is not a consideration, because they are larger files. Again, PSD files, Photoshop files, some people argue that that's proprietary to Adobe, and if Adobe ever went away, then you may not be able to read those files in the future. I don't know how valid that is, but if it's in a TIFF format, that's supposed to be a more universal format. Okay, RAW files. They come straight from the image sensor without the processing that you would normally get if you were shooting JPEGs. It's like we're saying, if you have the color temperature set to tungsten, and you have some sharpening applied, and a lot of the cameras have these other settings, and it gets applied to the image and permanently altered. But with the RAW files, you can go back and you can say, okay, well, I want to see what this looks like if I had shot it under sunlight or tungsten light or the other variations. None of those settings on the camera are stored in that file. You can adjust all those things, so you won't have that problem like my friend did, who shot everything in tungsten when he was shooting outdoors. With the RAW file, you can go back and you can change it to anything. It's the raw data from the sensor. DNG is also considered to be a raw image file. It's Adobe's proprietary standard that was created to store image data in a generic, highly compatible format. Unlike RAW files that have a specific format based upon the manufacturer and camera type. So I had an intern working here just a few weeks ago, and she had a brand new camera, and I couldn't read her files in my Lightroom. And so I had to update my Lightroom to add her camera model to it so that it could read her RAW file. So not all RAW files are the same. They're specific to that camera model and manufacturer. But if it had been converted to DNG, then anybody can read it. A lot of people believe in converting everything to DNG, and they do. Well, they're saved as RAW, and then I convert them into Photoshop files, and I edit them in Photoshop. PSDs, so I always have the RAW, but I don't feel so compelled to convert them to DNG files or TIFFs. But you know, some people are, and they're concerned about their images being here, 50 years from now, and maybe that's smart. Well, a lot of my client files, 50 years from now, I'm unlikely to even be here. And I suppose if I were shooting stock photography and expecting my images to last 200 years, then maybe I might make them DNGs and save them on a gold CD, DVD or something. So the point again being is you have to anticipate what your needs are now and in the future and try to pick the solutions that are going to service you the best. But I think you can go through and edit and thin things out, and you'll see images that you'll never print. It's like, what am I going to print? Am I going to print every one of these? Well, speaking of sorting through your images, one strategy is to have 3 folders, A, B, and C, and the A are the really good ones that you like and you want to see again. The B ones you're not so sure of, and the C ones you can them. So it doesn't hurt to go through that and, like you're saying, throw away the blurry ones. And there are types of metadata that's stored in your picture when you take it, which is useful, which keeps track of your aperture and your shutter speed and your ISO setting. And one interesting thing that David Rogers, when he gave the last Lightroom seminar here, was saying was a lot of cameras now keep GPS information stored in here. And in the latest version of Lightroom, you can actually have a map showing where you took all your pictures and even which direction you were facing when you took the picture. But the point being is there is a lot of metadata stored in these files as part of the package. So backing up in storage, as I said before, all drives will fail. So even though DVDs only store 4 gigabytes, it's not a bad way to go to keep your important images. You can burn them to DVD and keep them in a safety deposit box or somewhere outside of your house. So if you ever had a fire or a theft, you would still have access to those images. So even though it seems archaic today, it's not mechanical like your hard drive. And then there are online solutions too. I don't particularly recommend Picasa, but the idea is having something online or in the cloud does have some benefit, because wherever you are, you can have access to them. You can store them in Dropbox. We use Dropbox all the time for passing off images back and forth. So you get 2 gigabytes for free, and we have a lot of stuff there. Our clients you can have your own free account, and you can put something there in a folder, and then you can invite people to have access to it via email. You just put an email address in there and it goes off, and then they can access it. And if it's like a 25 megabyte file, then they can download it at their convenience, and you don't have to worry about being blocked by some email program or some server. It's very useful for that. And there's another service called SugarSync and others where you can store files and share them. So in summary, to wrap this up, what you want to do is determine what your current needs are and try to anticipate your future needs. And you might want to write them down. What am I doing? How am I shooting? What I want to be able to do with them? And how much am I willing to invest in software and hardware to accomplish this? And that might affect how you approach this. How valuable are your photos to you? Are they priceless? Do they have emotional attachments? Are they financially important to you because you intend on selling them? So take all these into account when you're determining your needs. If they're extraordinarily important to you, then you'll want to have them off-site. You want to have multiple hard drives. And how much time are you willing to spend on creating your system and maintaining it? How good does that system need to be? So that's the presentation. Thank you very much. Now, if anyone wants to stay and socialize a little bit, we'll be here. And if anyone wants a tour of our printing capability and see our large format printer or our framing capabilities, you're welcome to stay.